some fear is good. So we did well in some faith. They have the idea that you should always have the fear, but we don't have to worship God, to serve Him. We need not be always in fear. That's not required. Okay, so then Krishna explained that you just be an instrument in my service. Nimitta matram bhava sabyasachi. Now, Krishna, he showed the Kala Rupa for another reason as well. He showed that actually I have defeated all of them. Already they are all devoured, they all died. So Krishna showed that, Krishna established that as well. Now, Arjuna, yesterday we discussed that Arjuna, after glorifying Krishna with seeing his beautiful form, how he is the Deva, he is the Mahatma, he is the Devesha, he is the Akshara, Purusha, Jagannivasa, all those things. We glorified Krishna, and then he again placed a request. Then Krishna is asking, oh, what do you want, Arjuna? So Krishna said, my dear Lord, you please withdraw this form. I want to see your two-handed form. I want to see the form in which you showed to me before. I want to see that. So that's where we stopped yesterday. So we will continue from text 47. Yeah, so first he requested, he wanted to see that form, and then he also was very specific. What is that form? That with two hands, with Krida and all those things. Okay. Now let's text 47. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he points out why he wanted to see this form. O Arjuna, you have said that you desire to see my majestic form. And by your request, I have shown the form of the universe, which is one of my parts. So earlier in the third verse, Arjuna is requesting, please show the form. Why has your mind become disturbed on seeing it? It is not astonishing that you plead with me, wanting now to see my human form. So in this way, Krishna is responding in this verse. You already asked for me and I showed you the form. Why suddenly now you want me to withdraw that? Okay. Text for it. Yes. Yeah, it's coming. You will see now. It will be coming up. Text 47. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Maya prasannena tavarjunedam Rupang param dharshitamatma yogat tejomayam vishvamanantamadhyam yanme tvadanyena nadrishta purvam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, happily I have shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. So now Krishna, he explains that Maya prasannena tavarjunedam. Arjuna, you become happy. Rupam param dharshitam atma yogat. So this great form you have seen. This form that I have shown from my internal. It is, see, whenever the Lord shows different forms or he incarnates various incarnations, it's all happening by his Atma Maya. We heard this before. He is not an ordinary person. Through his internal potency, he is performing all his activities. And Tejomayam Vishvam Anantamadhyam. This entire, the effulgence is spread all over. Tejas is spread all over. And he says that nobody has ever seen this before. Yanme tvadanyena nadrishta purvam. Nobody before has seen this form. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada immediately points out in the purport that this form was manifested by Krishna through his internal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. So to see this form, it's not just, it's some kind of a idea that is cooked in the mind. It is the Lord reveals himself. Okay, so one has to be qualified to see that form. So here, when the Lord gave the transcendental knowledge in the beginning of the 4th chapter, Krishna clearly establishes his position. How he is not an ordinary person, how he is not an ordinary human being like us, although he may appear to be like in the Manusha Rupa. So, yeah, that point has to be understood. So here he is saying that whatever forms that comes from the Lord, it is all coming out through his internal potency. Okay. And further Prabhupada explains, they had not seen it before, but because of Arjuna, they were also able to see it. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. Yeah, so it was never shown before to anyone, this full form, but because Arjuna requested, the Lord showed the form, and by his mercy, everybody got the opportunity to see it, and we also got the opportunity to hear it. So now Prabhupada is very specific that somebody may question, but what about the form that Duryodhana saw? We discussed in the very first class, how in 5 instances Krishna showed this form. And Prabhupada immediately clarifies that. Someone has commented that this form was shown to Duryodhana also when Krishna went to Duryodhana to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhana did not accept the peace offer, but at that time Krishna manifested some of his universal forms. But those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. It is clearly said that no one had ever seen this form before. Yeah, Krishna did not show the form that he showed in front of Arjuna. So he was only showing some partial form of partially he revealed it, and also Duryodhana was immediately he just rejected Krishna as some person with some magical power, and then he didn't want to accept. He was so stubborn. Whereas others also, we discussed that, or not everybody were able to see that form also in that assembly. Only few of them could see the form, and also Dhritarashtra got an opportunity because he requested the Lord that he wanted to see the form. And Lord gave him that vision at the time. Now here in the commentary by Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu, he is nicely pointing out. He says, I have shown this brilliant form of supreme power which is situated within me, your object of love, who am like an actor or the Vaidurya stone, capable of showing many forms and colors. So remember, we did read about this in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that whenever the Lord, there is various incarnations, he shows the comparison that is given is it's like Vaidurya stone. He's a single person, same person who can expand himself into various forms. That is the glory of the Lord. Still he remains the same person, and every form is so attractive. It is so charming. Everybody is captivated by the form. When the Lord came as Vamana, everybody was attracted. All of them wanted to come and then they just left whatever that they are doing. They want to come and then see the form of the Lord. When he appeared as a Matsya, even in fact even in other species also, all of them were attracted by the form of the Lord. So like that, so very nice analogy that the Vaidurya, when you just see it from different angles, different colors can be seen. Something green, blue, red, various colors can be seen. So that's what here. So this is also one of his Shakti that he showed this particular form. Okay, text 48. न वेद यज्ञादयनैर्न दानैर्न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपशक्यहं नृलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीरा. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine, for neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances can I be seen in this form in the material world. Now again Krishna is emphasizing how it is not possible to see this form by anyone, and also you may perform so many varieties of activities, trying to endeavor to see this. It is not possible. So he says, so what are all the activities? He says, Veda Yajnaha, Veda Yajnaha, Adhyanaihi, Adhyayanaihi. So he says that by sacrifice, by performing Vedic sacrifices, or Adhyayanaihi means by Vedic study, you may study the Vedas. Nacha Kriyabhir. Nacha Kriyabhir means engaging in pious activities. Pious activities means one may be engaged in, according to his varna and ashrama, he will be engaged in his specific duties that he has to perform. By that activity, he may try to please the Lord. Na tapobhir, not by severe penances. Ugrahi, ugra tapo, ugra word is used here. So there is an explanation also given about that. What is this ugra tapa? Sometimes you can see now soon, the summer is going to begin. So in the summer season, if somebody is asking us to perform tapasya, how? You just be in the center of the ground, and around you put heavy fire. All the four directions you are covered by fire, and also on top also there is heavy fire. So and then in that you have to perform tapasya. So this is called as ugra tapa. And then just we had a glimpse, when we went to Badrinath, we heard that some of the yogis and rishis, actually the water is so cold. Actually everywhere it is, it's snow. You can find the snow and kind of rocks of snow, so you can see. And early morning around 4:30 you can see the falls, the Alakananda, and then all this water. You cannot imagine how freezing chill it is. And you can see some of the yogis, they will dip themselves inside that. So this is heavy tapasya. So he said, by performing all this tapasya, not possible, he says. Okay, then he goes on to explain. So these are all the points Krishna is explaining, that it is not possible to see by all these tapasyas. Now, Prabhupada in the Purport, he is further explaining all these things. So we will see that. So who can have this vision? Srila Prabhupada points out, who can have this divine vision? Divine means godly. Unless one attains the status of divinity as a demigod, he cannot have divine vision. And then who is the demigod? Vishnu Bhakta Smrta Deva. So the devotees of Vishnu, or who remember Vishnu, who glorify Vishnu, who serve Vishnu, they can be called as the demigod. Those who are atheistic, who do not believe in Vishnu, or who recognize only the impersonal part of Krishna as the supreme, cannot have the divine vision. It is not possible to decry Krishna at the same time have the divine vision. So one cannot have the divine vision without becoming divine. In other words, those who have divine vision can also see like Arjuna. So this is a simple point. When somebody in a very arrogant manner, they say, show me God. You develop those qualities to show God. Even I may show to you, but you will not understand anything because you don't have sufficient qualification. You have not undergone the necessary purification that is required for you to see the form of the Lord. So this is the point. So exactly Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. So you need a divine vision. Okay, Prabhupada further points out, the Bhagavad Gita gives a description of the universal form. Although this description was unknown to everyone before Arjuna, now one can have some idea of Vishwarupa after this incident. Those who are actually divine can see the universal form of the Lord. But one cannot be divine without being a pure devotee of Krishna. The devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision are not very much interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. So now let's discuss two things here. One is, who can see this form? Only who is qualified enough, he may be engaging in tapasya, he may be engaging in various activities, but one should do it favorably to please the Supreme Lord. The idea is that aradhyo yadi haris tapasya tatakim. Na aradhyo yadi haris tapasya tatakim. Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya explains that. So by your austerities and by your performance of penance, the goal is to see the Supreme Lord. So if you have seen the Supreme Lord, there is no need to perform all these austerities. That is also there. So the point is that it has to be done favorably to, the goal of your austerity should be the goal is not to get some power, to get some strength, or to get name, fame, glories, not like that, but to please the Lord. So that is another important principle. Now Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain here that the devotees are not interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. Rather they are interested to see the human-like form of the Lord, the two-handed form of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada will discuss more about this in the coming purports. We will further discuss. But the point to be noted here is that because they are not actually, we discussed this point before also, that the form is so huge, it's not easily approachable. How much you can cook, you may have all the, let's say you want to cook for the universal form, whatever ingredients we have in Salem, together Tamil Nadu, India, wherever, find all the ingredients, still it will not be sufficient. So it's easy to worship the Lord when he appears in this form of the Archa Vigraha. Okay, so that is one point. Then, and also another point here, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that he was actually, Arjuna desired to see the four-handed form of Lord Krishna as Vishnu, and he was actually afraid of the universal form. So because, it is showing all the, it is very ghastly, horrible. It's a terrible form. Krishna himself is saying, Gorena. He is saying, Gora Rupa, he is saying. Because there you see everything, specifically all the people dying, going inside his teeth. So it was terrifying form. Arjuna didn't want to see. And devotees also don't prefer to see that form. Okay. So further in the purport, Prabhupada discuss about how by one may engage in Veda Yajna Dhyayanaihi. So and then one may engage in charity. So Prabhupada goes on to explain. So your swadhyaya, your study of the scripture should be to please Krishna. The charity, the right charity should be done to Krishna and his devotees. So that is a proper way of doing charity. And then even the different pious activities, the Agnihotra sacrifices should be done for Krishna. So if you just do it without recognizing Krishna, all these activities will not yield you the proper result. This is the main point Srila Prabhupada is giving here. So here now Prabhupada is immediately pointing out that the impersonalists have a false notion. He says that but unless he is a devotee like Arjuna, it is not possible to see that universal form. Those who are impersonalists are also imagining that they are seeing the universal form of the Lord. But from Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the impersonalists are not devotees. Therefore, they are unable to see the universal form of the Lord. Yeah. So it is not possible. Without a tinge of bhakti, you cannot. So that's why you can see even in the process of karma, jnana, there is a tinge of devotion there. Without that factor, one cannot make any progress. And Prabhupada further points out, there are many persons who create incarnations. They falsely claim an ordinary human to be an incarnation. But this is all foolishness. We should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, there is no possibility of attaining perfect spiritual knowledge. And this is what is the point here is that we study the Bhagavad Gita. By studying Bhagavad Gita, we get clear knowledge. We get clear knowledge of what is matter, what is spirit, who is the controller of matter and spirit, what is the definition of God, what are his qualities. Then we will be able to really get an understanding and try to see in reality who has got these qualities. Exactly, Prabhupada is pointing out that. And he says that although Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the preliminary study of the science of God, still it is so perfect that it enables one to distinguish what is what. The followers of a pseudo-incarnation may say that they have also seen the transcendental incarnation of God, the universal form, but that is unacceptable because it is clearly stated that unless one becomes a devotee of Krishna, one cannot see the universal form of God. Not that somebody studies Bhagavad Gita and then they say everything is one, all gods are one, all paths leads to the same goal. So immediately we understand that they have never read the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, let's go to next text. Text 49. Now, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out in his commentary, O Supreme Lord, why do you not understand me? You are forcibly giving me something which I do not want. Seeing this form of yours, my limbs are distressed, my mind is pained. Constantly I am fainting. Let me offer my respects again and again to that majestic form from far away. I will never again pray to see that form. Forgive me, forgive me. Show to me that human form with moon-like face covered in showers of nectar through the sweetest smiles. Please show that to me. So this is what Arjuna is actually expressing. And then Krishna, having heard this, is saying, okay. The Lord then speaks this verse in a comforting mood to Arjuna, who is distressed by seeing the horrible feature of Krishna. So this is the point. In the previous verse, saying that you asked me, I showed you this form, and what is the problem? So then he says, no, my dear Lord, thank you very much. You please reveal your beautiful form, which I can behold. Okay, text 49. Mate vyatama cha vimuda bhavo drishtva rupam goramidrin mamedham vyapeta bhif prita manaf punastvang tadeva me rupamidang prapashya. So he says, you have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Drishtva rupam goram idrin mamedam. So my form, gora rupam, you are not able to hold it. You are vimuda bhavo. You are bewildered by seeing this. Vyata means perturbed, in trouble. You are troubled by this. Vyapeta bhi prita manaf punastvam. Then he says that with a peaceful mind, prita manaha. Prita manaha means with a pleasing mind. So in the previous verse also he said that prasannena. With pleasing mind, now you will tadeva me rupam idang prapashya. Now you will see my, according to your desire, I will reveal you this form. Now Srila Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfather and master. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When the sons of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty, they should be killed. This we discussed yesterday. We discussed this point, that just at that instance only, when the dharma was transgressed, actually they were killed, Krishna says. Exactly, Prabhupada is also pointing out. And also another reason that why Arjuna became fearful is that he saw his very dear, Bhishma, Drona, everybody is entering the mouth. And that also made him really fearful. Okay. So here Prabhupada is giving another very important reason that why the Lord revealed this universal form. So the reason you see he's pointing out. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. So that was the reason for which the Lord showed him that Arjuna, come on, now, everything is finished. You take the credit. Uttishta, wake up. Savya Sachi. Now you shoot arrows. So Krishna was pushing Arjuna. Now you don't come out of this so-called ideas of your compassion and all your various reasons that you gave. Now you take full shelter and then you fight. You send the arrows. Now what was Arjuna's devotional service? Arjuna's devotional service is that he has to shoot arrows, he has to kill the opponents. Whereas, what is the instruction that we are having? We are not here shooting arrows. Yes, what we do shoot arrows, but our arrows are a little different. We have Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Bhagavatam. Another arrow is Krishna Prasadam. We give the holy name. These are the arrows that we shoot. Now, we also fight. We also have to wage a war against Maya. But we take shelter of Krishna. And then if we remain as an instrument in his service, then we can come out of this difficult, horrible and most terrible material world. This material world is not a place for a gentleman to live. So padam yatti padam natesham. Bhagavatam explains it. Every step there is danger. But because of the effect of illusion, we are thinking that we are having lots and lots of hopes that we can enjoy this world. But that is complete foolishness. But when we get transcendental knowledge by the mercy of the spiritual master, what is it that we see? Immediately we see that this material world is a temporary place. We are part and parcel of Krishna and we are meant to please Krishna. That we get that clear understanding. Okay, here Srila Prabhupada is giving another reason why the devotees are not interested in the universal form, which we discussed. Either a devotee wants to offer his respectful worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed Krishna form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of God. So this is the point. The devotee wants to serve the Lord. Okay, text 50. Sanjaya uvacha ityarjunam vasudevastatoktva swakam rupam dharshayam asabhuyah ashvasayam asa chabhitamenam bhutva punaf saumya vapur mahatma. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. So, very clearly in this verse, it is mentioned how the Lord showed his two-handed form. Yeah. Ashvasayam asacha bhitamenam. So, Ashvasayam, in a very encouraging way, the Lord showed him this four-armed form. And then, see, this word is also very important to discuss this. Saumya Vapur Mahatma. The great Lord, Saumya Vapuhu, beautiful form, he showed to Arjuna. Okay, now, Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out, when Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayana. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form. But since Arjuna asked to see this four-handed form, Krishna also showed him this form again and then showed himself in his two-handed form. So yesterday we discussed how in Vrindavan, Krishna is always the eternal, he shows the Shyama Sundara form, always the two-handed form he reveals. But outside of Vrindavan, in Dwaraka, in other places where there is a tinge of, there is Aishwarya Gyan, there is a opulence that the Lord exhibits. So he shows the four-handed form. So in two-handed form is like an ordinary human. He appears like an ordinary human. So it is in the scriptures, and many acharyas are giving different quotes from the scriptures how the two-handed form is the topmost form, how it is the Swayam Rupa. From that all other forms are emanated. Okay, now Srila Prabhupada goes on to discuss this. The word Saumya Vapuhu is very significant. Saumya Vapuhu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone was attracted simply by Krishna's form. And because Krishna is the director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna. So now, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that this form is the form that is sought by his pure devotees. Specifically the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they always worship the two-handed form of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that. Now there are beautiful verses from the Bhagavatam and from other places as well, how the devotees are completely absorbed in the his beautiful form. There are several verses, few verses we will just recollect to see how the form of the Lord is so beautiful. So this is from the Bhagavatam 10th canto, wherein when Rukmini, she sends a message to Krishna, how she got attracted by Krishna. Here is a verse. She says, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara shrinvatam te nirvishya karna vivarair haratonga tapam rupam drisham drishimatam akilartha labham. So, Tvai achyuta vishati chittam apatrapam me. So here she uses the very choices, but she explains. Sri Rukmini said in a letter read by the Brahmana, O beauty of the worlds, having heard of your qualities, which enter the ears of those who hear and remove their bodily distress. So here also you see, Arjuna's distress was removed. Arjuna was in, when he just saw this universal form, he was little terrified. But when the Lord showed his four-handed form and then his two-handed form, immediately everything became very pleasing. He was so happy and so satisfied. So she is pointing out that those who see your beautiful form, those who hear about your glories, immediately they become prasanna, they become satisfied. And she further points out, and having also heard of your beauty, which fulfills all the visual desires of those who see, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you. She says that beautiful form, by seeing you, how can I move my eyes somewhere else? This is such a beautiful form. So here, these words are very significant. Rupam drisham drishimatam akilartha labham. Everyone in this world, everyone is completely captured by that beautiful form. Okay, here there is another description from the 11th canto. Again, the same point is being stressed. Swamurtya lokalavanya nirmuktya lochanam nrinam girbista smaratam chittam padaistan ikshatam kriyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty. Swamurtya, so his own form, it attracts everyone. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. So that is very interesting, no? When the Lord's form is so beautiful, and when one develops the desire to hear about him and see him, and he has been trained in the culture of Krishna consciousness, and when one is attracted by that form, and he cannot see beauty anywhere else. And that form of the Lord is so attractive. That is what is being pointed out here. So here further it is explained. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all people. When Krishna spoke his words, attracted the minds of all who remembered them. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. So his form is so captivating and it attracts so that everybody wants to surrender their lives to Krishna. So here is again Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is pointing out, Krishnera madhura rupa shruna sanatan jay rupera ekakana Dubai sabat tribhuvan. My dear Sanatana, the sweet, attractive, transcendental form of Krishna is so nice. Just try to understand it. Even a fractional understanding of Krishna's beauty can merge all three worlds in the ocean of love. He attracts all living entities within the three worlds. Okay, here there is again how his rupa, his form is so tender and how so beautiful is explained. Hey Krishna, bhrataras tasya kingvarnyo purvadarshitaha rupa saundarya lavanya madhuryashcharyata baraha. Oh Krishna's brothers, how can the infinite wonders of his bodily beauty, rupa saundarya, here the particular word is used. Here we heard the Saumya rupa here. Here the Rupa Saundarya is his effulgence and his charm be properly described. Features so attractive I have never seen in anyone else. So this all attractive form, Krishna is all attractive. That form, it cannot be seen with anyone else. Okay, there is another description. Also, there is another description about how the four-handed form also, description is given here. This is from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Parananda Ghanam Shrimat Sarvendriya Gunanjanam Narayanasya Rupam Tat Sakshat Sampashyatam Api. The beautiful all-opulent form of Lord Narayana, the concentrated essence of supreme bliss, refines the functions of all the senses. So here the Lord first shows the four-handed form. That is also attractive, but even more attractive is the Saumya Rupa of the two-handed form of the Lord. And then again, the devotees are glorifying the Lord in the Gopala Sahasranama. There is again a very famous description, many of you would have heard this, wherein how the Lord is very attractive. So if you see, one attractive feature in the Bhagavatam also, many places it is mentioned that, see, generally when we decorate someone, he appears to be beautiful, the so-called beauty in this material world. But we can see, when the cine actors or whoever in the drama, so they have a lot of makeup. When the makeup is removed, you may be scared to see them. But here, with respect to the Supreme Lord, in fact, when you just decorate him with all the ornaments and earrings and everything, all the ornaments becomes beautiful. They get the beauty. Bhushana Bhushanangam. The Bhagavatam explains that all the other ornaments also becomes beautified. Now here it is explained how the Lord, how does he look? He looks so beautiful. Kasturi tilakam lalata patale vakshastale kaustubham nasagre vara mauktikam karatale venu kare kankanam sarvange harichandanam sulalitam kantecha muktavali gopastri pariveshtito vijayate gopala chudamanihi. All glories to the crest jewel of cowherd boys known as Gopal, who has a mast tilaka mark on his forehead. The Kaustuba jewel on his chest, Vakshastale Kaustubham. A peaceful pearl on the tip of his nose, a flute on his hand, a bracelet on his wrist, graceful sandalwood paste on all of his limbs, a necklace of pearls on his neck, and who is surrounded by a host of gopis. So these are the beautiful descriptions that is given in the scriptures. Oh, there is one other verse. This is from the Mukunda Mala Stotra. Very nicely here Kulashekara Alvar glorifies the Supreme Lord. Jayati Jayati Devo Devaki Nandano So Jayati Jayati Krishno Vrishnivansha Pradipaha Jayati Jayati Mega Shyamala Komalango. You see here, this word is very important. Mega Shyamala, who is like a blackish cloud. Komala Angaha, with a body as soft as a lotus flower. There is one other name for Krishna, is called as Mridu Hari. Mridu means, you see, take a tender leaf, how soft it would be. So Krishna's body is so tender, it's so soft, we cannot imagine. So here he is pointing out Komalangaha, with a body as soft as a lotus flower. So then he goes on to explain Jayati Jayati Prithvi Bhara Nasho Mukundaha. So then he says that all glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared on this planet to deliver the world from the burden of the demons, and who can offer liberation to everyone. So these are some of the glories of the Supreme Lord who has appeared. So Arjuna was wanted to see that Saumya Rupa. So there are so many acharyas who have been completely absorbed in the beautiful form of the Lord and written so many poetries, so many glorification of the form of the Lord. So here, Srila Baladevi Vibhushan Prabhu is pointing out, just as the Lord has showed the very ferocious form which arose from just one of his parts, he again showed his own very sweet personal form, Swakam Rupam, with 4 hands, crown, club, chakra, and other ornaments, which was requested by Arjuna, and which was a mixture of sweetness and grandeur. Then again that great soul became the 2-handed pleasant form, Saumya Vapuhu, wearing bracelets, earrings, turban, and yellow cloth, and comforted the fearful Arjuna. Okay, text 51. Arjuna Uvacha Drishtvedam Manusham Rupam Tava Saumyam Janardhana Idanim Asmi Samvritta Sachetaf Prakritim Gataha. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "O Janardhana, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind and I am restored to my original nature." So here 2 words, Samvrita, I am composed, I am settled. Prakritim Gataha, and I am restored to my original nature. I come back. So far I was in a terrified form. I was very terrified. Now I am very composed. I am very peaceful. How? By saying Tava Saumyam Janardana. That Manusham Rupam, that human-like form, it's very beautiful. I am completely settled and peaceful now. There is a very brilliant purport by Srila Prabhupada. You can see here, he explains, those who deride Krishna as if he were an ordinary person are shown here to be ignorant of his divine nature. If Krishna is like an ordinary human being, then how is it possible for him to show the universal form and again to show the 4-handed Narayana form? Who can do that? Only the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the cause of all the causes. Nothing is above him. No one is equal to him. Only he can show that. So that is immediately being pointed out by Srila Prabhupada. So it is very clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and who misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the great injustice. See, this is you'll see Prabhupada is, again and again he speaks about it, because there is such an influence by this so-called writer who gave commentary to the Bhagavad Gita, who had no bias. He is considered to be one of the very big philosopher, and he was also the president of India for some time, and he was known throughout the world as a great philosopher. But what is his understanding? It is not it is not referring to Krishna, but to one who is unborn within. All these explanations. So Prabhupada is immediately raising the question. Krishna is not an ordinary person, and the so-called writers, they misguide the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking. He is doing the greatest injustice. What is the greatest injustice in this world? To deride Krishna's transcendental form, to deride him as a person. Kill, actually that's what, actually what they do the act of the Asuras, what they want to do. Asuras want to kill Krishna. That is their desire. So the so-called writers, the so-called commentators of the Bhagavad Gita, they simply want to kill Krishna. This is what, so we should never hear from them. So now Prabhupada goes on to explain. Krishna has actually shown his universal form and his four-handed Vishnu form. So how can he be an ordinary human being? Yeah, pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad Gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. It's a very nice statement here. See here. The original verses of the Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commentators. So the point is that these so-called commentaries of the people who say that they have read the Bhagavad Gita, some of them, they even can chant the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, the shlokas and everything, but this is what is their understanding. Their understanding is that actually Krishna is not a person, another so-called Mahatma, he says that, actually he's an imaginary figure, there is no one like Krishna, all different speculative ideas, offensive ideas. So Prabhupada says that what is the use of these people giving any commentary to the Bhagavad Gita? So this has to be understood. See, what they do is they outright, they reject. How are we going to, and also it is a famous thing, man is made in the image of God. So we are having senses, we are seeing varieties in this world. So what is the explanation that we are going to give? What is all these different varieties, different, there are different beautiful things that we see. Everything has got a wonderful form. How we are going to explain? What is the explanation of this? They don't have an explanation. So how do they immediately, they reject this? They say that everything is illusion. They say immediately. So we have to just give a heavy slap on their face. And when they ask, why are you beating me? It's all just illusion. We have to say, this is the thing. So it's actually cheating, completely cheating and completely misguiding people. The innocent people are misguided by the false commentaries of these rascals actually. That's what they do. So Prabhupada is immediately condemning here, so that we should not be, so that's why when you hear Bhagavad Gita as it is, then, so it may even sound, something, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada he named it Bhagavad Gita as it is. In one way, when sometimes people can also, what is it? What about the other Bhagavad Gita? Yes, they are not as it is. As Prabhupada is very clear trying to say. Of course, there are also authorized editions of other commentators who are coming in Parampara, who are Vaishnava Acharyas. But for others, they have no clue about who is Krishna, what is his position, how he is a person, he is a real person, he has feelings, he likes to reciprocate with his devotees. They have no clue, no understanding. Okay. So Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu also points out. Then Arjuna, seeing the very sweet form of Krishna bathing in an ocean of bliss, he says, "O Janardana, now I have regained my consciousness. Sacheta samvritaha, and I have gained composure." He also points out that. So he says that he was an ocean of bliss, and when he saw the transcendental form. Now Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out, here the Lord glorifies in 3 verses his Vishwarupa which he showed. Now again he is going to speak about the Vishwarupa, and then he says, Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu is pointing out, "My friend Arjuna, having faith in my form with 1,000 heads, which I have showed and praised as being unavailable to anyone but him, should not slacken his love for me as Krishna with a human form. With that thought in mind, the Lord teaches that this human form is the highest goal." Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudurdharsham idang rupam drishtavan asiyan mama devayapyasya rupasya Nityam darshana kankshinaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear. So, this two-handed form, the Saumya Rupa, is very difficult to see. It's not so easy. Even other forms, somebody can see, but not this two-handed form. Even the great demigods are hankering to see this. Nityam darshana kankshinaha, he says. They are eternally aspiring to see this form. Deva apyasya rupasya. And also the word, sudurdarsham. Durdarsham itself is difficult. Sudurdarsham means very difficult. Now in the purport, Prabhupada is pointing out, in the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. So that's the first point. That even the universal form is not easy to see. One should be divine to see that. He established that. Now here what he is saying, this two-handed form is even more confidential. Now here the word Sududarsham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. At this point we discussed that to see the form of the Lord, to even see engage in any activity, a tinge of bhakti is required. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti one cannot see. That has already been explained. It may be possible for what? You may be engaged in Vedic study, you may be engaged in penance, you may be engaged in philosophical speculation, but unless there is tinge of bhakti, everything becomes Shamahevi Kevalam, that's all. Okay, now Prabhupada points out, still beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is still more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice praise to the Lord. Although he was not at that time visible to them, they waited to see him. So also you can see in the Krishna book, in the second chapter of the Krishna book, the prayers by the demigods, very nice section, very nice prayers are there. And so you can see there, Brahma, Shiva, that beautiful painting is also there, Devaki is pregnant and all the great personalities, Brahma, Shiva and all the other demigods, they all want to come and then see that beautiful form. There is a very nice prayer in that regard. Let me see if I have it with me. So the demigods, they glorify Krishna's unique position, how he is the Parasatyam, how he is the perfection, how he is the truth. Satyam, Rinam Satyam. So like that they glorify in many choices of words regarding the glory of the Lord. Okay, here are few verses which from their prayers. So they say about the beautiful that how the Lord is transcendental. Nanama rupe gunajanma karmabhir nirupitavye tavatasya sakshinah mano vachobhyam anumeya vartmano devakriyayam pratiyantyatapihi. So they say, O Lord, your transcendental name and form are not ascertained by those who merely speculate on the path of imagination. Your name, form and attributes can be ascertained only through devotional service. Here they also point out that the demigods themselves, they say that it's not possible by speculation. Your Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela can be only appreciated by those who are engaging in your devotional service. Otherwise it is not possible. And also they glorify the process of hearing. Shrinvan Grinan Samsmarayangscha Chintayan Namani Rupani Cha Mangalani Te Kriyasu Yastva Charanara Vindayor Avishta Cheta Na Bhavaya Kalpate. So they say, even while engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate and cause others to remember your transcendental names and forms are always on the transcendental platform, and thus they can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here you can see these glorifications are done by demigods while they are hankering to see the beautiful form of the Lord. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out in this purport, that even the demigods are very eager to see the form of the Lord when Devaki was pregnant. Okay. So these prayers that we discussed are exactly in that section. A foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are all nonsensical postures. Again, you can see Prabhupada is repeating this point. So immediately he says that avajananti mamuda manushim tanumashritam. So those who are mudas, they can never see, they can never appreciate the form of the Lord. Prabhupada is pointing out, his body is never like a material body, but for some who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher, but he is an ordinary man, and even though he was so powerful that he had to accept a material body. You can see sometimes the scholars, they say that, oh, Krishna is a tribal man, and then later he linked himself with Vishnu, and then he calls himself Vishnu. So many, they speculate like that, very offensive. And they try to study the Gita and try to understand by their own way. Now, in this purport, Prabhupada is giving two things. He is saying that by all your materialistic calculation, you cannot find out who is Krishna. And also by your speculative calculation, you cannot. Prabhupada points out both the things. So here, he is pointing out that by your materialistic calculation, you cannot find out who is the Supreme Lord. Then he says, another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. So these other speculators, what they do, they say that, so we discussed that before, no? Now, this is the form that we are all waiting, this universal form. They think that this is the form. Rather, we understood that even this universal form is coming from which form? From the two-handed form of Krishna. Krishna was right standing there, he's standing in the chariot, he's showing right there to Arjuna. So that is the point. So now Prabhupada is again making a point here. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna which was manifested to Arjuna is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. See, this is very, very offensive. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person. So they are very firm on that. And then they give all kinds of nonsensical reasons. They say that if you compare the Lord to be a person, then he is limited, you are limiting him. So all these nonsense arguments they are giving. So he says that now Prabhupada goes on to explain this purport there. So what is the process? How to understand Krishna? So Krishna asked the demigods, we just read this, the process to understand the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is by the transcendental process as given by the Supreme Lord. What is the transcendental process Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita? We have read these chapters. Krishna gives a transcendental process by which you can understand him in truth, understand him as a person. How do we get to understand Krishna? What is Krishna suggesting in the beginning chapters of the Bhagavad Gita? Yes, thank you very much. Krishna says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya. Go to the tattvadarshis. Go to the person who is self-realized. Go and then surrender to him. Ask submissive questions to him. Engage in service. By this process, this is the transcendental process. In this way, we will be purified, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, this transcendental knowledge will be revealed in the heart of the sincere seeker. This is the point, right? So it is not by any other process that this we can understand about Krishna's name, form, ityadi. We cannot understand. This is how we can understand. So that is the point. So Prabhupada is pointing out that exactly in this rest of the commentary. So here he says that even the transcendental is by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. You see, seeing Krishna by revelation it means that the Lord, when the Lord desires to show himself to us, then we can see. Not that we can capture our Lord. It is not possible. When he desires, he shows himself. Atastre Krishna namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyai. Sevon mukehi jigvado swayam eva spratyadaha. He himself reveals to his devotees. Then only it is possible. Otherwise not possible. And that devotee invokes the Lord's attention by simply being submissive to him. Simply hear his instructions. Okay. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Shyama Sundara. So here Prabhupada makes 2 points. He says that yes, it is difficult to see the universal form. To see that form also one needs to have divine vision. But even more difficult is to see the Saumya Vapuhu, that beautiful form as Shyama Sundara. You see, one very nice point here is there, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary. He points out that here the Lord glorifies in 3 verses, we read this, but you do not desire that form at all. How can your 2 eyes, which continually taste the great sweetness of my human form, which is the original form, enjoy that universal form? Therefore, I gave you divya eyes to see it. Divyam dadami te chakshuhu. But though I gave divya heavenly eyes, I did not give you a divya mind. Thus, by those divya eyes alone, you cannot enjoy completely that form, because your mind relishes only the great sweetness of my human form. See, this is the point. That's why Arjuna was not able to digest that. If I had given you a divya mind, then you would have relished that swarupa of the Purusha as the universal form, just as the Devatas do. So this is the point. So Arjuna is only captivated by that Saumya Rupa because that is his constitutional position. He is the eternal friend of Krishna. He cannot see Krishna otherwise. Now again Krishna goes on to explain that even to see this form, this is not naham vedair na tapasa na dane na chejjaya shakya evam vido drashtung drishtavan asimam yata. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas. Now he's explaining about this 200 form, not by study of the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Drishtavan asimam yata. As if you want to see me as I am, these are not possible ways. So again Prabhupada is pointing out, atheists and scholars cannot understand how the Lord transformed into 200 form. The mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand. I just, few days back, one of my friend, he just sent me a link about one famous Dikshitar in South India who has got a very good grip over Sanskrit, and he can split the words, he can in a very poetical way give some of the explanations, and then he's speaking about, you see that in the Bhagavad Gita there are many nice shlokas, in the Mahabharata, and then in other scriptures it is there, and then Krishna is speaking this, and then just 2 lines we heard here, and then what is it that he says that actually what Krishna, Rama, Dakshina Murti, everybody is same, they're all one. No, you have to have some form to worship. You have to, just to fix your mind completely this impersonal way of preaching. This is his understanding. Very often you don't want to hear that, because he is completely neglecting Krishna. He is ignoring Krishna. This is the right thing to say. If you ignore Krishna, you are going to be in deep trouble. And what is the use of such a pronunciation of words, and very artistic in his presentation. Everything is so opulent, but it is like mandanam lokaranjanam. This is the exact explanation that we can give. You just decorate the dead body with all nice jewels and earrings, and you put the diamond and everything. It is just like decorating the dead body. Krishna is the personality to be glorified. He is to be acknowledged. Everywhere we should just see the hand of Krishna. But these rascal Mayavadis and all these so-called scholars, what they do, they simply take Krishna out of the picture. So that's why Prabhupada is very strong in his commentary. He is pointing out. So that's why you can see, there in all ways, in the name of interfaith, in the name of science, in the name of communism, in all ways people gather. They want to discuss about truth, but they can never ever understand. Even the religious way also, they cannot understand who is their absolute truth. Because as long as they are going to engage in mental speculation, as long as they are going to put their own ideas, according to me what I think is, according to me what I feel is, actually this is what it says. If they interpret it in their own way, if they are not going to follow the methodology as given by Krishna, it is not possible to understand Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. This is the very important point, Srila Prabhupada point he gives here in this purport. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. In the next two verses, Krishna is going to explain the glory of devotional service. Now, in this verse, what we read now, it's a kind of in a negative notion. Krishna is saying that it's not possible by these ways. What are the ways? By the Veda Adhyaya, by engaging in tapasya, it's not possible. So, on the negative side, is saying now. So, what is that? Then, how can one know Krishna? Now, Krishna is going to explain that. This is a very important verse. If it is not given in list of memorization, please memorize this. Put it in memorization as well. Text 54. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham evam vidorjuna jnatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Jnatum drashtum cha tatvena. Jnatum here means one can know him and one can see him. Tatvena means in reality, in truth, one can do this. How? Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya. By unalloyed devotional service. So that unalloyed devotional service is without any mixture of karma and jnana. So Prabhupada, in the very translation, he is very specific about it. When he says ananyaya means without fruitive activities and mental speculation. So shakya means possible. And then he says aham evam vidorjuna. So one can know me, Arjuna. Like this one can know me, not by any other ways. Okay, so these points already Srila Prabhupada discussed in the purport. In this purport, Prabhupada, first of all, he just in the beginning he says that how he cannot be understood. Then he goes on to explain how he can be understood. There are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulatory principles described in the authoritative scriptures, in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. For example, to undergo serious penances, one may observe fasting on Janmashtami. So that's what I explained before, that it's not that these things are totally condemned, engaged in Vedic study, engaged in penances, but the point is that everything should be done for Krishna. Otherwise, we will be like asuras. Asuras also engage in austerities. What Hiranyakashipu did, he engaged in heavy tapasya. So many people are there, they engage in tapasya, but by tapasya, what they wanted to achieve? They wanted to be the controllers of the world. But here by the tapasya, one engages in pleasing Krishna. So immediately Prabhupada is pointing out, we fast on the Lord's appearance days. And the devotee does it for what? Simply to please, I just want to please Krishna. So he wants to fast on Ekadasi, he wants to fast on Lord Vishnu's various appearance days, on the Janmashtami, like that. So he says that for charity, one has to engage in performing charity to spread the Krishna consciousness to this entire humanity. And he says, and if one worships as prescribed in the temples in India, there is always some statue, usually of Vishnu or Krishna. That is a chance to progress by offering worship and respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the beginners in devotional service to the Lord, temple worship is essential, and this is confirmed in the Vedic literature. So now this is the point. So one has to come to the temple, bow down in front of the deities, and then pranayar artayar diya vacha. So engage in his service, artayar, whatever wealth he has got, you should give it to Krishna. You should use his intelligence in serving Krishna. You should use his words to glorify Krishna. And this is what and by that he develops how he does it, because he has faith in the Guru, he has faith in Krishna. And this is what they are instructing. So this is the Very important sutra. Many times we have discussed this. Again, we will repeat to hear this. Very important. Also good to learn this verse, and it is very helpful in preaching because this forms the fundamental principle. In fact, the whole Krishna consciousness is based on this principle that yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasyaite katitayartah prakashante mahatmana. One who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master in whom he has similar unflinching faith can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. So one needs to get trained under the bona fide spiritual master, and then one can then steadily make progress. So now Prabhupada here in this particular purport is also doing a contrast between this universal form and the two-handed form. So let's see that. Prabhupada points out the personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed form and the four-handed forms are described as Sudurdarsham, very difficult to see. They are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjuna. The four-handed form of Narayana and the two-handed form of Krishna are eternal and transcendental. So one difference we see here. This form is temporary, the forms of Narayana and Vishnu are transcendental. So then he says, the words Tadanyena na dhrishta purvam state that before Arjuna, no one had ever seen that universal form. Also they suggest that amongst the devotees there was no necessity of showing it. So another difference is saying that this universal form is not attractive to the devotees, or the devotees are not so much interested in seeing this universal form, whereas the devotees are interested to see the two-handed or the four-handed form. And also Prabhupada points out that why the Lord revealed this universal form. The Lord revealed the universal form so that people can, when they ask, they can to see this universal form, so that they could. That's why when one represents himself as an incarnation of God, people can ask to see his universal form. So he says that there is another opportunity we have, because the Lord showed the universal form so that there will be so many cheaters who will appear in this world, and you can ask him, so okay sir, you are the Bhagavan, show the universal form. So that's another reason Prabhupada points out here. And also Prabhupada points out that, so who has got the eligibility, what is to write, to give commentaries on Bhagavad Gita? Only one who is engaged in devotional service, he is eligible to give commentaries. Now Srila Prabhupada, in this purport you can see very nice references he is quoting to establish that Krishna's is the origin of all the incarnations. He is the origin of all the three Vishnus. He is the origin of, from him Balaram expands, from him all the three Vishnu forms expands, and all the different avatars, all the avatars are expanding from him. So there are several references Krishna is giving regarding this in this purport. So please read those references. So then you will know how glorious is the Lord and how various Upanishads glorify Krishna. This is a very interesting reference. Sachidananda Rupaya Krishnaya Klishtakarine Namo Vedanta Vedhyaya Gurave Buddhi Sakshine. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Krishna, who is a transcendental form of bliss, eternity and knowledge. I offer my respect to him because understanding him means understanding the Vedas and is therefore the supreme spiritual master. He is also the supreme spiritual master. And then from Gopala Tapani Upanishad, so many references are given to establish that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. He is the cause of all the causes. And there's a famous verse from the Bhagavatam. Everybody should learn this verse. It's an important verse. If we are followers of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, and simply with two verses, one from the Gita, we can say, Mattaf Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. So in this verse, Krishna establishes that there is no superior truth above me. And then the Bhagavatam, he says, Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the Swayam Rupa. So we should know this. And why he descends to defeat the enemies of Indra. And also see in this purport, another reference also is Aham Adirhi Devanam. So what about the Devatas? No, he is the source of all the Devatas as well. That is also established. So then sometimes somebody, then there are often asked questions. One question that is asked is actually, Krishna, our understanding is that Krishna is an expansion of Vishnu. So the general understanding that when the Lord expands himself, he expands himself, and when he is expanded himself into the three Vishnu forms, at Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, all the expansions that happens in the Lord's further expansions happens through the agency of Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu. But when Krishna, as the Swayam Rupa, when he descends, he comes with his own Swarupa Shakti. He himself descends. There is no agency, so he himself descends, and just that establishes that Krishna is the source of incarnations of all the other Vishnus as well. And also there is another thing wherein there is a clear difference which is marked who is superior, or actually Krishna, Narayana, Vishnu and all other incarnations, they are all the same person. But in terms of the rasa vichar, in terms of the in terms of the mellows, there is difference. What is the difference? It is very clearly explained that when Krishna, there are 4 features in Krishna which is very outstanding. Even Lakshmi Devi, even the great personalities, they all are attracted by the charming beauty of Krishna. What are those? Krishna is Venu Madhurya, he is the only one personality who plays the flute, and when he plays the flute, is very attractive. Venu Madhurya and Rupa Madhurya, his form is very attractive. Just now we heard about how his form is very tender, how is all captivating. Gopakumar, he was completely, he is for him like how Arjuna is completely absorbed in that form, the Saumya Rupa. Similarly, Gopakumar, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there is such descriptions that is given how Gopakumar traverses to all the planetary systems, and even after traveling through all the planetary systems, seeing different forms of the Lord, his Ishta Devata is the Gopal. He is attracted by him only. So even when he goes to Vaikuntha, although he got entry into the Vaikuntha, he was requested, he was asked to change his attire because the Lord is very formal there. And you cannot just go and then touch him, embrace him. It's not possible. The Vishnu Dutas, the gatekeepers, they don't allow him. And then even when he saw, oh, he's not my Gopal. He was not still, that attraction was not there for him. So the point is that the Lord, specifically the Lord's form as the Rupa Madhurya, that's very very attractive and all charming. So Venu Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya, then Prema Madhurya. Also there is also the Lord, the love that the Lord has for his devotees, the Bhakta Vatsalya, it's very unique with the Lord. And then Leela Madhurya, his pastimes are very captivating also as well. So and that's why you see even Lakshmi Devi, she's performing penance so that she could get an entry to see the Lord's pastimes in the Rasa Leela. Even Lord Shiva, he wanted to participate. He wants to come and participate. He wants to see the beautiful form of the Lord. He was given. When he came, there is so much descriptions that he had to take bath in the kunda. The form has to change. So there are so many descriptions are there. So the point is that Krishna's form and Krishna is the Swayam Rupa. From him, all the other emanations are there. And this chapter itself is a clear evidence regarding that. So we will see. Prabhupada points out in the purport. Sorry. Okay, Prabhupada points out at the end of the purport, he points out that the Supreme God had exchanged his transcendental love in his original form of Krishna. Therefore, to Arjuna, who was so intimately related with Krishna in friendship, this form of the universal manifestation was not pleasing, rather it was fearful. Arjuna, who was a constant companion of Krishna's, must have had transcendental eyes. He was not an ordinary man. Therefore, he was not captivated by the universal form. This form may seem wonderful to persons who are involved in elevating themselves by fruitive activities, but to persons who are engaged in devotional service, the two-handed form of Krishna is the most dear. Okay. There is, if you see Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu's commentary, there are so many references that he is giving about regarding Krishna's supremacy, and all those references you can see Srila Prabhupada is quoting in the purport. Well, there is one point I just want to discuss. Okay, here in this particular shloka, you can see the word that is being used, praveshtum. Praveshtum means enter. So somebody may interpret. So finally you enter. Finally you merge. You may this Mayavadis, these so-called commentators, they always twist everything. Here, Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu is pointing out an amazing instance here. He's giving a note here. He's saying that if one says, I enter the town, it is understood that one becomes connected with the town rather than becoming the town or disappearing completely in the town. So nice, no? He's pointing out that not that he's entered, Baba is not lost. He has entered the town. That's the point he's mentioning here. Okay, we will continue with the next verse. Text 55, definitely for memorization. This is a very important verse in this entire chapter and is also the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Mat karma krin mat paramo mat bhakta sanga varjitah nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamameti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So in the purport, Prabhupada immediately is pointing out that this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. He says, anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the supreme personality, Krishna, must take this formula. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So what is that formula? Krishna says, mat karma krin. You engage in my activities. What are those activities? We will see. And then mat paramo. You have to keep me as your goal. Mat bhaktaha. Become a devotee. Sangha varjitaha. Become free from the contaminations of karma and jnana. Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu. So you become free from all the enemy. How? By you become friendly to everyone, and also by that you will not see any enemies. Yasamam eti pandava. If you follow these 5 things, then you will certainly come to me, Krishna says. So Prabhupada points out that what is the aim of this Bhagavad Gita? The aim of the Bhagavad Gita is to develop an eternal relationship with Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. And that is possible by engaging in devotional service. So immediately here Srila Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out that what is this Krishna karma? Mat karma krin. What is this Krishna karma? He is pointing out. In the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is also speaking what is the activity. Krishna himself is setting example. What are the activities to be performed? Krishna says that you follow the prescribed duties. He explains that you follow the Vedic injunctions. You set example by following all these things. Remember, Krishna is explaining about all this, how one has to perform his activities, but by being detached with them. He is performing that. Now here Prabhupada goes on to explain that he is immediately explaining about the principle of Yukta Vairagya. Because in this world, there are so many things. If you see in the Ashtanga Yoga process, there is one state called Pratyahara. What does Pratyahara means? One becomes, he withdraws his senses from the sense objects completely. So literally, the yogi becomes detached from everything. He doesn't, he completely is aloof from all the objects. But on the other hand, a devotee has got no problem. He engages everything in Krishna's service. And in that way, he is very detached also. If there is something given to him, he uses it in Krishna's service. And when it is not required, he is completely detached. So that's the art of Yukta Vairagya. So Prabhupada points out that. So by that, immediately Prabhupada gives an example. One may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Early days devotees did this. And also there are still some devotees who are like this, who are just working for Krishna, simply to please the Lord. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna. And he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is called Krishna karma. So we request everyone to engage in the body, engage the wealth that he has, engage the energy, engage intelligence in Krishna service. This is Krishna karma. So in the purport, Prabhupada discusses so many other points of how you can engage in pleasing the deity by engaging in service. Okay. Then further he points out, Srila Prabhupada points out, mat paramaha. So one should know that the goal of life is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will always be engaged in moksham vishnuangri labham, even in the initial stage and in the liberated state. In all stages, it is very clear that we have to engage in the service of the Lord. There is no question of, as the Mayavadis or other impersonalists have this idea of merging. Very nicely, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he offers one of the prayers, and he says that it's like Kaivalyam. Kaivalyam Narakayate, he points out. He says how devotees are always absorbed in the form of the Lord. Kaivalyam Narakayate, Tridasha Purakasha Pushpayate, Durda Tendriya Kala Sarpa Patali, Proktata Dhamstrayate, Vishwam Purna Sukayate, Vidhi Mahendradischa Kitayate, Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhavatam, Tam Gauram Evas Tumaha. So, is a prayer that is offered in glorification of the of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the main point. Devotees are not interested in merging. They are not interested in Kaivalya. Kaivalya, oneness in the effulgence of Brahman, appears hellish to the devotee. The heavenly planets, what about the heavenly planets? The heavenly planets, the abodes of the demigods, appear to a devotee like phantasmagoria, Akasha Pushpa. Phantasmagoria means there is nothing like that. There is no flowers in the sky. These are like a horse's eggs. There is no eggs of the horse. So that is his understanding. He has got no desire for such things. The yogis meditate for sense control, but for the devotee, the senses appear like serpents with the broken teeth. Durda Tendriya Kala Sarpa Patali. So that is what is being explained. So that's the whole point. So when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, then the senses become weak. Then you are in a safe position. So that is what. So he has no attraction for any of these things. That is what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out here. Rather, what is it that he's keeping it as his goal? Going back to the abode of the Lord, engaging in his transcendental service. And here immediately, so Mad Bhaktaha. So by engaging in devotional service, what is the devotional service means? Prabhupada points out that engaging in the Navavida Bhakti, 9 forms of devotional service. So then here, whenever we say devotional service, immediately that has to be defined. Otherwise, so many people we say, actually, here is my friend, here is my father. They are all great devotees of Krishna. Sometimes we have this experience also. Sometimes people, we encourage them. We encourage people. We go to someone's house. We go distributing books. We say that, oh, no, you're a great devotee of Krishna. And then you see there's a picture of, so many so-called avatars. All the 33 crores of demigods are in the altar. And then, they say, they watch TV. And they have due to some piety, they do worship Krishna. But they think that this is devotion. But immediately our acharyas define what is pure devotion. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanavritam anukulyena krishna anushiranam bhakti ruttama. So that definition is very, very clearly, it gives about the position of Krishna, what is devotional service, how the devotional service should be free from karma, and dhyana should be free from mental speculation and fruitive activities, and very favorably the activity should be engaged for the pleasure of Krishna. So sangha varjitaha, so that is also being pointed out here by Krishna. So it should be simply to please me. And also, while I'm trying to understand what is that pure devotional service, also here Srila Prabhupada points out to the quotation from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Anukulyasya Sankalpa. So, because Kamsa was also constantly meditating on Krishna, but it was not Anukulyasya, it was Pratikulyasya. He wanted to kill Krishna actually. So in that way, so it should not be like that. It should be in a very favorable way. One has to think of the Supreme Lord. So that is Srila Prabhupada points out. Then here he goes on to explain that Nirvairaha, without an enemy. So here he says, a devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy. Nirvairaha. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. So he knows that actually people are all suffering in the material world. They do not know. They are foolishly trying to enjoy in various ways. But actually, what is really is going to give happiness to the people is Krishna consciousness. So actually, a devotee has got no enemy. He sees everyone. He has this. So what Prahlad Maharaj says, Prahlad Maharaj is very much concerned for all those demoniac people, all those rascals who are. He says that as far as I am concerned, I am magna chittaha. My mind is completely absorbed in your lotus feet, my dear Lord. But I am more interested to save the fallen conditioned soul. So he doesn't, and even in fact he says that he wanted Hiranyakashipu also to be elevated. That's how devotees are. So Prabhupada immediately gives references of 3 personalities. He gives an example of Lord Jesus Christ, how he was even though he was crucified, he still wanted to spread God consciousness. Then he gives the example of Haridas Thakur and Prahlad Maharaj. That is the point here Srila Prabhupada is giving. And then finally Prabhupada points out, therefore the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems, not this so-called social service, not opening orphanages, not engaging in mundane activities. These are all, it's all like blowing the, when somebody has got a heavy boil, okay, and then you go and then you just blow the boil to him, and then what happens, actually it increases the pain, but rather somebody will come with a knife and then cut the boil, although it may be painful initially, but immediately there is relief, isn't it? Also Prabhupada gives a nice example, no? It is, if you want to save a person who is drowning in the river, you save the person, not his shirt. So all other activities, any other activities which is not connected with Krishna, which is not engaged, one is not engaging in devotional service, then that is not going to help the soul. So this is the point. So it says, in such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. We will see here in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one who spreads this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, is very dear to me. And devotees take great risk to give this knowledge to others. So Prabhupada, in summary, is concluding, it is not that Krishna is the manifestation of the original Vishwarupa or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is so important, but the original form, two-handed Shyama Sundara. So one should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. So this is the conclusion. So Prabhupada very clearly concludes that Krishna is the origin of all other incarnations. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, Swayam Rupa, and all other forms are emanating from him. So this has to be understood from this chapter. It's a very nice chapter wherein Krishna's superior form is established. That is the topmost form. So we'll just stop here. Do you have any questions or comments? Any realizations? One question we can take. There is. Sorry? Yeah, these last two verses. And anything else was given, you can just check. Last two. Last one only we gave, no? So add this one more verse. That's it. Yes. Yes, 54 and 55 for memorization. Thank you very much.